Hi everyone, it's Amelia here. Welcome to the monthly Q&A video for Bad Astrologers patrons. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I know I say that every time, but I really am going to do my best. Thank you so much for being patient with me this month. It's been very busy, both in the world with so many important things happening, and also busy on the personal front too. So I really do appreciate it. And hopefully I will make it totally worth your while with the answer to your questions. If you're watching this and you're a $5 patron, you have access to, at the $10 level, be able to ask a question about your birth chart. It's kind of like a little mini reading. I go a lot deeper in my regular readings. They usually take about 55 minutes, but if you have a little question or just have like something that you want to fine tune, I love doing these questions and seeing what's going on in your life. So don't hesitate. I would love to be able to take a look at what's new in the stars for you. So first, we have Jill. She says, "Hello, Amelia. Back in March, you commented on the painful situation I am in with the breakup of my long-term marriage." I remember that, and I hope you're doing okay. For the previous 5 months, I've been trying to fix things for the sake of all of us in our family. We always had a difficult relationship and could never figure out why, even with help. But now that my husband has moved on, in quotes, I feel relief that I should no longer have to fix what I could not fix. That's fair. However, I cannot see the shape of my new life. Is it that I should try to fall in love again? That's never a bad idea, right? Or is there a way to be present without the pressure of fixing that too? I have so much, but I don't know what to do with it. I love this question, and I'm really excited because I'm really happy to hear you consider the idea of your new life, right? I think a lot of people come to astrology looking for a relationship answer, and it can definitely give you that. It can help you be a better partner and help you learn how to be in better relationship or better communication with the people that you're with. But I think the real strength in astrology lies in identifying your individual strengths and what opportunities are available for you and just you and your soul. So 10 points to you for making that jump. I know I'm sure after years in a relationship, it can be hard to reframe that way of thinking. So A+, you're already on the right track. In the astrology readings that I give, I immediately look to the outer planets to find out sort of the landscape of what's going on in your life at a high level, right? So if you look at where Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are, you can say, okay, well, these are the long-term things going on. These are the lessons that I'm learning. And this is where I'm going to really want to dig in and spend my time. Transits with the personal planets, by that I mean Mercury, Venus, and Mars matter, but they're more short-lived. And so these things are going to last you a whole year all the way up to, 14 years in the case of a Pluto transit. That's going to take a long time and really be worth your while to spend that time with it. So first, the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction is one of my favorite things going on right now. I know that there is a lot of frustrating astrology, or people are already starting to stir the pot about the Mars retrograde in Aries coming up. I know we're right in the middle of an eclipse season, so there's definitely plenty of upheaval, but we have Jupiter conjunct Pluto in the background, giving this really powerful boost to everything, helping us see from a totally new perspective. I know I talked about in the forecast before how it's kind of like the marriage of heaven and hell, being able to see what's beneath the surface as well as like what's above, and bring those together to find a more prosperous, lucrative, or fulfilling way to do things. So for you, that Jupiter conjunct Pluto in Capricorn, and also Saturn is about to go back into Capricorn here in like a couple of weeks as I'm recording this. In July, it'll move back into Capricorn. So those things all together in your third house is going to be really your focus on community, right? So finding that group of kindred spirits as far as a next step, I would say is absolutely essential. So instead of focusing on like, I'm going to fall in love again and find a romantic partner, or I have to go this alone, let me just figure myself out. There's a happy medium, and it's like finding friends or even, you know, people in your community that would be like a mentor or a student in some cases, like people who you have that simpatico, like intellectual connection with that can just, they brighten your day with like a funny meme that they send you or a book recommendation. I saw the sweetest thing on Instagram. It was like how to send a digital care package, and it was like send someone a movie recommendation that they might like and a recommendation for an album you think they might like, and so on and so forth. I think the best friendships are ones that have that aspect to them where you know each other really well, you know one another's likes and dislikes, and you can really ground yourself in that. And I think once Jupiter and Saturn do both move into Aquarius at the end of the year in about mid-December, circa the solstice, it's going to go into your fourth house of home and family and like the real base of your chart, the foundation of things, when they come together for that great conjunction that we've been talking about. And at that point, I could actually see you relocating. I usually don't make proclamations like that. I can't even believe I'm saying it now, but you know, if you're trying to make a real big new start, it could be, you know, whether it's like a new apartment, whether it is a totally new city, that could work for you. Or it could be, it doesn't have to be location based. It could be spending more time with your family or going to therapy. Like fourth house transits are an incredible time to go to therapy and really go dive deep and have those breakthroughs on things that you thought you were over but maybe weren't, or even just in a more proactive way to say like, okay, I know that I have X, Y, and Z limitation. Like I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to overcome that. And this is how. So let's see, what else did I have for you besides that? Another option as far as the fourth house later in December, like after you've spent your time focusing on the friends, is kind of making your home more you, making it a sanctuary or a safe harbor, a place where you really feel at home and like it has nothing to do with your former spouse, right? Like I think when you have a big separation like that, you know, there can be, the fourth house has to do a lot with like material objects and sentimentality, and so I could see you during that time purging some of those material objects. Obviously you want to keep your children's belongings and like you know, the things that remind you of their childhood, but it's okay to move on and it's okay to let go of some of that physical stuff. Like it has a big Marie Kondo vibe, so that should help. So moving on to Uranus, I feel like Uranus is transiting in your seventh house of relationships, and Uranus is about rebellion and surprise and shock and things happening that nobody could have ever anticipated, even an astrologer like me. So I feel like it would be a waste of your time, frankly, to plan too much when it comes to love, to really like put your eggs in that love basket and say, I'm gonna work on trying to find a relationship. Because also, I find often, both with clients and in my own experience, sometimes love happens when you aren't looking for it. I definitely, when I met my husband, I was living alone. I was like, I'm gonna be single for a long time, and then we met and have been together for this year's our 10-year anniversary, so you really never know what might happen to you. But just instead, I would say leave room for love to surprise you and for you to surprise you, right? So the seventh house is also, you know, consider that Uranus is also transiting opposite your ascendant in that position, and so it can help you break out of old patterns or really shed your old skin and move on in like a very permanent way like you're talking about. I also noticed that Neptune, which is the planet of romance, which is the type of romance that can feel really good and be really charming, but that can also be a little bit difficult to hold down, like the kind of thing like, the sand slipping through your fingers, is currently conjunct Mars in your 5th house, which is also associated with romance and crushes and creativity. And I find that to be a very fun and frustrating aspect. It could be sexual frustration, right? Like you have this passion that you want to give someone and you feel like you just can't find the right person, or like a lack of romantic direction, right? Like it seems to be manifesting in what you told me. You're like, I have this love to give and I don't know what to do with it, right? So, I also noticed that Juno, the asteroid Juno, or dwarf planet Juno, is transiting your 12th house of rest and recovery. And so I think that before you make any real major moves towards being in a long-term relationship again, you need to do more healing, right? And before you put yourself back out into the world, But once she moves into your rising sign later this year, I think that's when you'll throw yourself back into the dating pool. And I don't think you have to, commit to anyone right away. I mean, like I said, with the Uranus stuff, just take it as it comes and be open-minded. And I think you're in a really lovely place, love-wise. I think you have all the options available to you. But to recap, focus for the next couple of months just on your friends and your community and that intellectual connectedness, even your neighborhood, right? And then after that, giving some love to your family and your own emotions and your physical space. And just don't worry too much about what's going to happen, because with Uranus, it'll be beyond, it'll be a big surprise. It's funny because like I'm telling you it'll be a surprise, but it will. Even though you know it's coming, it'll be a surprise. So good luck, and I'm glad that you are doing better, and I'm really proud of you, and congratulations. Okay, next one, this is from Lynn's. It says, I did a short course on astrocartography, which I love this question already, and noticed the town I relocated to last year, a place I've dreamed of living for nearly 15 years, which is amazing, has Saturn conjunct my MC, my midheaven. I know Saturn on the midheaven indicates a lot of hard work and responsibility in one's professional life, which is already proving true. Since I'm Capricorn rising, I wondered if my chart ruler being conjunct the midheaven has added any oomph to this placement, and anything else I should expect to see while I live here. This is amazing. So I love that you heard the astrocartography in the Susie episode and you brought it. Like, I feel like I have a secret passion for astrocartography. I think it's really fun, and I don't talk too much about the travels that I've done, but I've been a lot of places, and it's really fun to go back in your mind of the stamps on your passport and see like, okay, how does this line up with my experience of that place? If there's a place that you feel sort of drawn to it inexplicably, look up where that is in your astrocartography chart, and it's really accurate. I can't claim to understand the mechanism by which it works. I'm not an expert in that field, but as far as the intuitive reading of the chart, it works and I love it. So first off, you're absolutely right that having Saturn as your chart ruler definitely makes that more potent for you. As for what you might expect to see, on the positive side, there's definitely potential to become like a powerful person in your industry. I know that's a big statement, but it really is true. You could be someone who's seen as the authority figure or very knowledgeable or wise on whatever topic it is you specialize in. And who doesn't want to have that, right? It's kind of like having Saturn on your midheaven in your chart the whole time that you're there. So that kind of looks like, different ways that could look would be being hyper competent in whatever you do, super efficient, and very hardworking. And also being able to do lots of work, like a high volume of work. You're kind of indefatigable, unflappable energy. It's very productive, and it's very grounded and firm, and you keep your habits very strong, which I'm always advocating for that. I'm really for it. On the flip side, so there is a chance that you'll have to navigate the sort of, this sounds dramatic, but it is what it is, like the darker side of institutional power and or bureaucracy and the limits that can impose, right? But you can learn to work within that, and by doing that, change things for the better. But it's still challenging. I think there's also a little bit of a danger of becoming like a workaholic, of just like only wanting to do work all the time. And then you can avoid that or really thrive by putting strong boundaries while you live there around your public versus private sector areas of your lives, like what's professional versus what's for pleasure. Like even just like clarifying these things before you go to a coffee with someone. I think you might also want to watch out for getting stuck in a rut. I know Saturn can become very like rigid as far as like habits. So those habits that I'm saying are so good, like always be upgrading them, always be trying to be more efficient, if that makes any sense. I won't say who, but I had a client who worked in media who lived on their Saturn midheaven line. And everything I just said was very much the case for them. They became very successful, definitely had to navigate the power structures of success, but it's really, really cool to see that work out. And so I think you can make that work for you. If you have any other questions about it, reach out to me. I would love to hear how the rest of your experience goes. And congratulations on making the move to this place that you've wanted to be for 15 years. That's amazing and deserving of praise. So A+. Okay, last one is Jason. All right, Jason, so you said this final Cancer eclipse is happening just about on your solar return. Happy birthday, happy solar return. Those last two Cancer eclipses were doozies, so I wondered what I might expect or how I should be thinking about the last one. Such a good question. And you're absolutely right to think of them as being part of a series, right? But before I dive into that part of it, I want to make sure that I'm talking about how it's placed in your chart. So obviously it's going to be making the same aspects that your sun is making, so it's really going to make that sun placement pop out. And if you ever had any questions what your sun issues are, both like sun talents and sun issues, this solstice eclipse is going to point them right in your face. But you're lucky in that your sun only has positive aspects. The sextiles from Mars and Saturn, sorry, I'm checking your chart, which are both technically malefics, ensure that you can sort of benefit from anything tough that does happen around you, and that your work ethic and motivation to do so will be through the roof. Like even sextiles from the malefics, like I feel like there's a sense of grit and grace with that. You also consider that you've been dealing with whatever this is for a long time. You know, the July 12th, 2018 eclipse and July 2nd eclipse last year. This eclipse is happening at 0 degrees. So it really is the hard reset that was brought on by like whatever you've been working through for the past 2 summers. I keep thinking of Meghan Markle. Like she's like at the epicenter of all of this, and you can see all the challenges that she's had to face and some of the missteps and successes that she's had. I know it's been a wild ride, so if yours has been anything like that, you can definitely, I'm curious to see what happens. But, it will be good to have that hard reset point. And then the Cancer new moon, it won't be an eclipse, but it will be another Cancer new moon next month. It's kind of the denouement to the story. So if this is like the climax of that, then we get to see the falling action through really mid-July. I noticed that even though this eclipse is in your first house of self, it's really more about who you are in relationship to others, to yourself, and to the rest of the world. And here's why I say that. If we break down the aspects that the eclipse is making in your chart, so there's this out of sign square that it makes to Mars conjunct Neptune, which is hovering in your 8th house right now. it exposes the shadow parts of your psyche and insecurities that need to be worked through, or shows how much progress you've made towards doing that, maybe through therapy, maybe through journaling, spirituality. I know we've talked about that a little bit in the past, so I think it might be like a spirituality practice check-in. That square also dissolves the boundaries and opens you up more to intimacy, which can be really scary but rewarding. It's kind of, I think about Brené Brown and her work on shame and vulnerability. I think you'll be able to do a lot to move past shame and towards vulnerability at this time, as long as you are honest about your feelings. I'm thinking about this Mars-Neptune conjunction is that I have, as far as the clients that I personally work with and folks that I've seen on Twitter, people have been struggling with it. It's been very difficult. It's been very painful because it is like boiling water, right? Of Mars's heat being applied to the sort of oceanic operation of Neptune. Boiling water burns you, right? It can cook food, but it's also like to be handled delicately. If it's a steam engine, it's like you have to direct that somewhere. So think about where you're directing your energy with this and how to do so in such a way that's sustainable for your spirit. There's also in conjunct with Saturn in Aquarius, which is transiting your 7th house. So that's another like relationship angle too. I think you've made some progress in how you want to carry out your one-on-one partnerships since Saturn went into Aquarius back in March. Or maybe you did start a new relationship. I don't know. But for the summer, after this, you'll have to go back and do more psychological work to really receive the full benefit and depth of that love. And finally, I love that this eclipse is conjunct Vesta. So go back and listen to the Vesta episode. I think you're finding out where you can really be of service and what you want to give. It's about making the love that you give sacred. It's about love as a spiritual practice. One thing that you might want to listen to, Phil Picardi's new podcast called Unholier Than Thou. In the first episode, he interviews his fiance, who is a doctor on the front lines of COVID, and talks about how that has changed his relationship to faith, to himself, to the idea of love and relationships overall. Definitely could help you figure out where you're sitting with this eclipse. But best wishes, happy solstice, and I can't wait to see how it goes for you. You'll have to check in on the next video, and we can unpack that if you like. That's all we have for now, so thank you so much. It really means a lot to me that you are all so willing to open up and share these intimate parts of your life. I know that's not easy to do, but it is much appreciated, and I'm honored to be able to hold space for that and help in whatever small way that I can. I know the world is a difficult place to be right now, but hopefully this can be a balm. So take care of yourself. Have a wonderful day, and see you next time.